Hello and a very warm welcome to KPIS Delhi. This is Anil Kumar and welcome you all to this CARE initiative, Current Affairs through Reverse Engineering program. Let us discuss about the important issues that are important from your examination perspective. The issues that came up in today's newspaper is the first issue talks about the center's proposes to replace Indian Stamps Act of 1899. So this forms part of your GS paper 2, which means your Constitution of India, historical underpinnings, evolution, features, amendments, and any provisions with respect to basic structure doctrine. So it forms part of your GS paper 2. What is this whole issue is, recently the government has proposed Indian Stamps Bill of 2023, which aims to address the existing shortcomings of this earlier act and also modernizes the stamp duty system in this country. So we will be looking at what is stamps duty, which government is empowered to collect stamp duty, who is levied and who spends this stamps duty, and what are the various modernized features that has been part and parcel or incorporated in the proposed draft bill of Indian Stamps Act of 2023. We will be looking into this. Second important issue that we are going to look at is regarding UNRWA and its funding issue. UNRWA stands for United Nations Relief and Work Agency. So it is part of your GS paper 2 again, which is your international relations, international institutions, groupings and agreements involving India and or affecting India's interest. So recently there has been an issue that the United States and 8 other Western countries, they have been the major contributors of this United Nations Relief and Work Agency, has suspended the funding for this particular agency. So what is this grouping? What is this agency? What is the objective? What is the mandate? What is the scope of this particular agency? And why these United States and 8 other Western countries has halted the funding for this institution? We'll be looking into this particular issue as well. Third important issue is regarding seafood to be cultivated in laboratories. It is an interesting issue which forms part of your ecology and environment and also forms part of your GS paper 3, typically food processing and related industries in India. This particular issue is talking about how to alleviate the pressure on wild fish populations and reducing environmental impact. At the same time, growing seafood outside the sea is being planned by research agencies in India. How can seafood be cultivated or grown outside the sea in the laboratory conditions? This is an initiative which was taken by some research agencies. How can this be ensured? That we'll be talking about. Next, it talks about India's snow leopard population. It also forms part of your GS paper 3, ecology and environment. And also, it talks about the current happenings as well, the indices and reports. The whole context of this particular is, it is talking about the snow leopard population. While talking about the snow leopard population, it has been recorded that the Ladakh has the highest population of India's snow leopard as per a report. Now, the final issue that we are going to discuss for today is from GS paper 3 as well, which is your science and technology, technological developments and their applications and effects in everyday life. It says that hybrid vehicles have better efficiency rather than electric vehicles. This is the whole issue, a comparison between the hybrid vehicles as well as the electric vehicles, because a survey has been undertaken by HSBC Research. It has suggested that India should prioritize hybrid vehicles over electric vehicles. What is the rationale behind supporting these hybrid vehicles? And what are the drawbacks of this electric vehicles? We'll be looking at it. And it says that the survey or the research suggested that for the coming 5 to 10 years, to be more practical and to cause less environmental pollution and towards decarbonizing effects, you have to promote hybrid vehicles rather than electric vehicles. That is the outcome or findings of this particular research. So, all right, let us begin with the first important issue. What is this first issue? As I told you, Center proposes replacing Indian Stamps Act of 1899. So first you need to understand what is this Indian Stamps Act. What is stamps duty? You need to understand what is stamps duty. Whenever you hear this term stamps duty in your economy, it is basically or it is essentially a government tax. The government imposes this stamps duty, which is levied to undertake any registration of documents, be it transaction of properties or any such sort of bill of exchanges, promissory notes. It can be any such sort. So stamp duty is essentially a government tax which is levied by or which is levied to registered documents, like an agreement or transaction which is happening between two or more parties. This is simply your stamp duty. Usually, the stamp duty, the amount that is specified within the stamp duty is usually fixed. It is based on the type of document that you are undertaking. Sometimes even the percentage of stamp duty is also mentioned within the agreement. In simple terms, that is stamp duty. So there are different types of documents which can be subsumed or on which stamp duty can also be imposed. There are certain types of documents. So stamp duty can be levied on various kinds of bill of exchanges, various kinds of checks, promissory notes, bills of lading, letters of credit, policies of insurance, transfer of shares, debentures, proxies and receipts. On all these type of documents, stamp duty can be imposed by the government. So what is the legality of the stamp duty? When you talk about the legality of the stamp duty, these documents with paid stamp duties are considered as valid evidence under the court of law. So any document, any misappropriation, any disagreement between the two parties involved in this particular transaction, they can showcase this stamp duty as a legal document before the court of law. So that is the legal validity or legal legibility that the stamp duty is having. So government authority and revenue collection. The central government here in this particular case imposes the stamp duty, but the money which is collected on stamp duty goes to respective states as well. It is levied by the center, but it goes to state governments. This is the key point that you need to remember. So what is this provision talking about? This provision has to be granted through constitutional means because the central government is imposing and the stamp duty is being collected. Whatever stamp duty is collected goes to the state governments. So this is done according to Article 268 of the Constitution, which allows states to appropriate these funds within their territories. These are some important points that you need to remember. All right. Now let's go into important provisions that you need to understand. What is Indian Stamps Act of 1899? When you talk about this earlier act, Indian Stamps Act of 1899, you need to understand what is this earlier act. This Indian Stamps Act of 1899 is basically a fiscal or money related statute. Yes or no? An act is a fiscal or money related statute that lays down the laws relating to tax leviation in the form of stamps on instruments or any such sort of issues. So under this Indian Stamps Act 1899, you have section 2 of this particular act. Section 2 of this particular act talks about an instrument, and it includes every document by which any right or liability is or purports to be created or transferred or limited or extended or recorded. So it talks about this particular provision. Which article, which section? Section 2 of this particular act. It talks about the instruments. Similarly, you have section 3 of this earlier act of Indian Stamps Act 1899, which specifies that certain instruments or documents must have a stamp duty as mentioned in Schedule 1 of this particular act. So this gives the powers to collect stamp duty from the parties involved. So examples of the stamp duties, as I told you, it can be any sort of instruments like your bill of exchanges or your promissory notes falls under the documents requiring for stamp duty. This is the provisions. What is this Indian Stamps Act? So now, why is the Indian Stamp Bill 2023 being proposed? Why this new regulation, new Stamp Bill 2023 was proposed? So if you look at the statement which was given by Ministry of Finance, it says that several provisions which were earlier part of Indian Stamps Act of 1899 have now become redundant or inoperative. When I say redundant, what do you mean by redundant? Which is of no use in the present context. For instance, there are many provisions which are missing. For example, the digital e-stamping or lack of uniform legislation for all Indian states regarding the collection of stamp duties. All these are the drawbacks So this is the whole purpose on which this particular Indian Stamp Bill 2023 is being proposed. Alright. So now let us understand what are the notable features of this particular Indian Stamp Bill 2023. So as I told you, why the new bill is proposed, because there are certain provisions which are outdated provisions are there. Absence of digital e-signature or e-stamping is second reason. Inconsistency with state laws, it could be your third reason. And fourth, coverage discrepancies, because all the states are not uniformly applying this particular law. So what are the notable provisions of this draft bill of 2023? So this new draft bill includes something called as digital e-stamping. This is the first important point. Digital e-stamping, as per section 2 clause 18 of this particular bill, the term electronic stamp or e-stamp has been mentioned. E-stamp refers to digitally created mark indicating the payment of stamp duty through electronic methods or through other means. So this bill incorporates provisions for digital signature or digital stampings. A digital or electronic signature is how a subscriber can verify an electronic record through electronic means, through internet. As simple as that. So it is also within the provisions of Information Technology Act of 2000. Alright. And another important feature of this particular notable feature of this draft bill is the draft bill also suggests increasing penalties. Earlier, the maximum penalty used to be 5,000 rupees. This has been increased to 25,000 rupees in the new draft bill. Any sort of penalties for violation of this payment of stamp duty. And there is a provision of 1,000 rupees fine for repeated offences as well. These are the key takeaways with respect to this particular Indian Stamp Bill of 2023. Now, let us solve an MCQ with respect to this particular issue. Which of the following statements regarding the stamp duty in India is correct? Stamp duties are collected and appropriated by the centre as per Article 268 of the Constitution. As I told you, it is levied by the centre, but it is distributed to the states. So statement 1 is wrong in this particular case. Statement 1 is wrong. It is levied by the central government but are collected and appropriated by the state governments. Second statement. According to the Constitution of India, documents mentioned in entry 91 of the Union List attract stamp duties levied by the Union government. Is the statement true? Yes, absolutely true. Under entry 91 of the Union List of the 7th schedule, as you all are aware, these particular instruments have been mentioned or documents have been mentioned on which stamp duties can be levied. It can be your bill of exchanges, checks, promissory notes, letters of credit, policy of insurance, transfer of shares, debentures, proxies, all these part. So here your option is 2 only, which is B. Similar question has also been asked in UPSC Prelims 2019 with respect to the advantages of goods and services tax. You can go through this particular question as well. Next, moving on to the next important issue. Next issue is talking about the United Nations Relief Work Agency, United Nations Relief and Works Agency and its funding issues. You need to understand this particular issue as well. Why is this in news? As I told you, the funding has been taken away for these particular agency or global grouping. Recently, the United States as well as some Western countries has cut short their funding to this particular agency. So what has necessitated for them to step back of funding for this particular institutions? Because you need to understand the role, the mandate of this United Nations Relief and Works Agency in the first hand. So what is this United Nations Relief and Work Agency? It is basically established by the General Assembly in 1949. It basically supports the relief and human development of Palestinian refugees. This is the key or primary objective of this particular UNRWA. So it serves or it encompasses or it provides certain services to these Palestinian refugees. So this agency is responsible for taking care of this Palestinian refugees. It is a mission to help Palestinian refugees who are stationed in certain locations. We'll be looking at those locations as well. So the funding for this institution is to prima facie maintain the welfare of this Palestinian refugees for their relief and human development. So who are these Palestinian refugees? That is the question that might be in your mind. Basically, these Palestinian refugees are those persons whose normal place of residence was Palestine during the periods of 1946 till 1948, because at those times both home and means of livelihood are lost because of 1948 conflict. That is another important point. Whatever the war that has happened in 1948, the Arab Israeli conflict, that has led many of the refugees not to have proper homes or settled land for their livelihood. So this agency is responsible for taking care of the Palestinian refugees. They are regarded as Palestinian refugees. So now, like as I told you, what is the mandate of this United Nations Relief Workers Agency? Basically, to provide essential services. Essential services could be your education, could be your healthcare, or any sort of social services. This is the primary objective. Second, what is the scope under which they operate? They operate basically in certain regions of West Bank. They operate in Gaza Strip. They operate in Jordan and also Lebanon and Syria. These are the countries where their operational functioning has been in place. Next, what are the kind of services does this particular agency provide? They offer, as I told you, they offer education. Basically, predominantly, if you talk, they offer 5 kinds of services: education, healthcare, relief, social services, emergency aid to Palestinian refugees. These are the key points. So in terms of providing education, they manage schools for Palestinian refugee children, employing a significant number of teachers and staff. It is their duty. With respect to healthcare facilities, they operate health clinics, they provide primary healthcare and responding to emergencies. When it comes to funding, they relies on voluntary contributions from international communities. It is a voluntary contribution. Voluntary contribution has been the prima facie funding source. So these funding relies on voluntary contributions. So what are the challenges that this agency faces? First one is the financial constraints, because a lot of political complexities, security concerns in these regions operate. So funding issues is a major challenge. So this particular institution or grouping is important or relevant because they remains crucial amidst Israeli-Palestinian conflict which is undergoing, because they typically addresses the ongoing needs of Palestinian refugees. So this forms part of your international relations. You need to understand this. So why funding has been taken away? Because if you see, there has been accusations on this UNRWA, United Nations Relief and Workers Agency officials who are involved in Hamas on October 7th attack. These Hamas has attacked Israel. So this triggered decision. Their agency members are involved in Hamas for their attack on Israel, where this agency plays a vital role in providing essential services to all these people. But some people, some officials within this agency are involved in attacking Israel. This is the only claim on which the funding for this particular agency has been withdrawn by United States and 8 other Western countries. We have seen the background. What is this mandate, the scope and everything we have seen. So what are the implications of this particular decision? What are the implications of this funding crisis which was created for this particular institution? So any kind of funding pause which was put forth by Western countries could lead to significant reduction in the services that this particular agency is going to provide, which affects the livelihoods of millions of Palestinians in Gaza. And whatever the accusations that was made against this United Nations Relief Work Agency, it also raises concerns about the politicization of humanitarian aid and its potential impact on the stability of this particular region as well. So resolving the funding issue and addressing allegations against this UNRWA officials are the crucial step towards ensuring continuity of essential services for Palestinian refugees in Gaza. This is the implication that this particular issue is having. So now let us look at an MCQ with respect to this particular topic. Consider the following statements regarding United Nations Relief and Work Agency for Palestinian Refugees. It was established to run relief programs for Palestinian refugees after 1967 Arab-Israeli Six-Day War. No, as I told you, it is not 1967. It was followed after 1948 Arab-Israeli War. This UNRWA was established and it began operations in 1950. So first statement is wrong. So you can take away option 1. You are left out with only 2. Option 2 is correct. It is funded almost entirely by voluntary contributions from UN member states. As I told you, it is completely a voluntary contribution. It is currently headquartered in Beirut, Lebanon. No, you have to know this factual information as well. In 1996, basically the original headquarters is Beirut, Lebanon, but this has been moved to Vienna, Austria. The headquarters is in Vienna, Austria, which happened in 1978. These are the important points that you need to consider. All right. Similar question regarding United Nations General Assembly was also asked in your prelims UPSC 2022. Kindly go through this particular topic as well. Now moving on, the next important issue is regarding seafood to be cultivated in laboratories. This particular issue is talking about cultivation of seafood, lab grown fish. Recently there has been an institution called as CMFRI. CMFRI stands for Central Marine Fisheries Research Institute, which has initiated a groundbreaking project for lab grown fish. So what is this lab grown fish? Lab grown fish is simply your cultivated or cell based fish which is produced to cellular agricultural techniques in a controlled environment. So fish is being cultivated or a cell based fish is being developed or produced through cellular agricultural techniques in a controlled environment. So it has to involve certain processes. What is that process? Specific cells within the fish are isolated or taken away from the fish tissue. Some cells are taken from the fish tissue and these cells are then cultured or then grown in laboratory settings. In laboratory settings, these cultural processes is happening without any kind of animal component, which means it is happening within free media without any interface of animals. In a laboratory, these are grown. So what are the replication of qualities that you can witness within this particular lab grown fishes? Ultimately, the final product replicates the original flavor, the original texture, the original nutritional qualities of conventional fishes. Only if these three conditions are satisfied, same standards, same laboratory grown fish is synonymous with your conventional fishes. So the objective of this particular lab grown fish is to address the increasing demand of seafood. We are not able to provide enough demand or enough supply for the existing demand in this seafood industry. This could be one major advantage or objective of this particular laboratory grown fish. Second is alleviating pressure on world fish population and resources. There has been tremendous pressure on the world fish populations that can also be reduced. So what are there any environmental impacts associated with this? Obviously, yes. It offers potential benefits for environmental conservation by reducing overfishing as well as habitat destruction associated with traditional fishing. Traditional fishing has got some potential environmental impacts, which is overfishing, and the second one is habitat destruction. This can be overcome. So it is significant because it provides an alternative to conventional fishing methods and also contributing to sustainability of seafood production. So finally, it reduces ecological footprint with traditional fisheries. These are the important issues that you need to understand. Next, there has been the same issue has been in news. So who is undertaking this and all, we have to know. See, as I told you, need for lab grown fish meat. The advantages and all we have been discussed here. So, what are the global progress in this cultured meat? Are there any global practices? Yes, there have been certain global practices. Several countries, including Israel, Singapore, United States, and China, as well, has made significant strides in this lab-grown fish meat technology. So, if you talk about the front runner, Israel is regarded as front runner in this field because it has successfully produced lab-grown fish meat, which in a way it is paving for commercialization in the market as well. So this expansion of lab grown meat industry to numerous companies through worldwide exploration, it tremendously, the industry has witnessed substantial growth. Over 150 companies globally has also backed this significant investment, signaling towards sustainable food production. So this holds some significance. All right. So now let us look at an MCQ with respect to this particular topic. Consider the following statement with respect to cultivated meat. It is a meat produced by culturing animal cells. Is it true? Yes, it is true. Singapore is the only country to approve the sale of cultivated meat products. This is a factual information which you need to be aware. Yes, Singapore is the only country to approve the sale of cultivated meat. This also stands true. The Dutch pharmacologist Mark Post was the first to present a proof of concept for cultured meat in 2013. This is also absolutely true. These are factual information. So here the answer is 1, 2 and 3. Answer D is correct. Similar question with respect to genetically modified mustard, GM mustard developed in India has been asked in UPSC Prelims 2018. Any significant innovations or researchers within your food processing industry or agriculture are important from UPSC perspective. So you can try to solve this particular question as well. Next, moving on. Next issue is regarding the hybrid vehicles are better than electric vehicles as per a research. As I told you, there has been a recent survey which has been conducted by HSBC, which suggests that India should prioritize hybrid vehicles. Hybrid vehicles should be prioritized over electric vehicles for the next 5 to 10 years as more practical and less polluting solutions for decarbonization efforts. It says that the whole crux is hybrid vehicles has to be promoted rather than electric vehicles. Why? Because the key findings or key highlights of this particular research which was done by HSBC, it is talking or mentioning few important advantages. Number one, lower carbon emissions. It says that hybrid vehicles emit lower carbon emissions compared to electric vehicles. If you talk the statistics, the numbers, the hybrid vehicles emits 133 gram per kilometer of carbon dioxide, whereas electric vehicles emit 158 grams per kilometer of carbon dioxide. So hybrid vehicles are beneficial. Second is decade-long advantage for hybrid because it suggests the emissions from EVs and hybrids to converge during this periods. Hybrids are considered to be at least 16% less polluting rather than electric vehicles if you consider a decade-long advantage of hybrids. And these hybrid vehicles also provide as practical medium-term solution because this hybrid vehicle believes that hybrid and compressed natural gas cars are practically medium-term solutions for India for the coming 5 to 10 years rather than moving towards full electrification because the cost of ownership and India's carbonization efforts can also be met. And final advantage is convergence of emissions. The research also estimated that the emissions from electric vehicles and hybrid vehicles could converge after 7 to 10 years. This convergence is expected to occur if the share of non-fossil power generation in India increases to 44%, even with 40% share by 2030. Hybrid vehicles are projected to emit only 8% less carbon dioxide than electric vehicles. These are certain advantages that we have with respect to hybrid vehicles compared to electric vehicles. Similarly, you need to understand what are the various types of electric vehicles that we have. There are predominantly three types of electric vehicles. One is your BEVs or full EVs. Second is hybrid electric vehicles. Third is fuel cell vehicles. BEVs means battery cell electric vehicles. They have these BEVs or full electric vehicles. They do not have internal combustion engine or they do not have fuel tanks. This is the major difference. So they run fully on electric drivetrain, which is powered by rechargeable batteries. Whereas hybrid electric vehicles, they combine conventional, they have this internal combustion engine and a system of electric propulsion system as well. So this is a hybrid method which has substantially lower fuel usages. Next is fuel cell vehicles. They combine hydrogen as well as oxygen to produce electricity, and whatever the motor that is running by using this hydrogen and oxygen, the only residue of the chemical process is water, H2O. So several vehicles have been designed using these three different types of electric vehicle technologies. Alright, so now let us solve an MCQ with respect to this particular hybrid electric vehicles. Consider the following statement with respect to hybrid electric vehicles. A hybrid electric vehicle that uses two or more different energy sources to power vehicles. Is it true? Yes, it is absolutely true. It is powered by the electric motor alone, which uses energy stored in batteries by internal combustion engine or by both. Both the statements are true here in this particular question. Similar question has also been asked in your UPSC Prelims 2019. In the context of proposals to the use of hydrogen enriched CNG as fuel buses in public transport, consider the following statements. Try to attempt this particular question as well. Now moving on to the last topic for today, which is talking about India's snow leopard population. Why is this in news? Because it says that a recent survey has been conducted, and this particular survey has reported that Ladakh has recorded the highest population of India's snow leopard as per SPAI report, Snow Leopard Population Assessment in India. It is a program and a report which was launched, which recorded snow leopard's population is highest in Ladakh compared to anywhere in India. So why is this in news? Because India is home to approximately 718 snow leopards, with Ladakh recording the highest population of 477 according to the first ever population estimate exercise which was undertaken by Snow Leopard Population Assessment in India. So this is a factual information. This is the snow leopard. You have to know certain important facts with this particular snow leopard in India. Whenever you talk about this snow leopard, you have to understand about this particular snow leopard. What is the geographical distribution of this snow leopard? In which places it is found? It is not only found in India, but it is also found in various other countries like your Afghanistan, Bhutan, China, India, Kazakhstan. All this portion also contains this snow leopard. If you talk about the geographical distribution of snow leopard in India specifically, we have seen across world. If you talk about this in India, predominantly the northern part of the Himalayan region, which is predominantly covered by snow. Your Jammu and Kashmir, your Ladakh, your Uttarakhand, your Himachal Pradesh, Arunachal Pradesh and Sikkim. These are the states where the distribution of snow leopard is prevalent. So if you talk about the protection status, according to International Union for Conservation of Nature status, snow leopard is recorded vulnerable. It is regarded as vulnerable. The status is currently vulnerable because there exist certain threats. Habitat destruction could be one reason, invasive species, climate change, pollution, which collectively exert an unprecedented impact on the survival of this snow leopard. So internationally, snow leopards are listed under Appendix 1 of CITES, Appendix 1 of Convention on International Trade of Endangered Species, signifying the highest level of protection because they are regarded as vulnerable species. If you talk about the statutes which ensures protection to the snow leopard in India, they are under Schedule 1 under Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. So global efforts or conservative efforts have also been taken up with respect to protection and conservation of this wild or snow leopard. One such program is GSLEP, which stands for Global Snow Leopard and Ecosystem Protection Program. Alright, now let us solve an MCQ with respect to this particular topic on snow leopard. Union Environment, Forest and Climate Change Minister released the snow leopard population estimate for the first time in India during the National Wildlife Board meeting in New Delhi. According to this, which of the following states have the maximum number of snow leopards? As I told you, the total number of snow leopards that has been recorded are 718 in our country, out of which 477 are predominantly confined in Ladakh region. So here the answer is A, Ladakh. Similar question. Consider the following statement. Which of the above are naturally found in India? These are certain species. So try to answer this question, which was asked in 2012 UPSC Prelims. Alright. Kindly visit our Telegram channel to answer mains questions with respect to the above mentioned topics. See you in the next session and all the best.